While it's okay for a family to ban certain topics from the holiday dinner table, there is a way to have important conversations effectively with your family. Joining us today is behavioral pediatrician Dr. Tim Jordan. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here on a cold morning. You're here to talk to us a little bit about conversation starters.
Yeah.
Yes, there's certain things that we may want to avoid specific to each family, but how can we get around that and just have pleasant conversation?
Well, you might want to think about it ahead of time.
Okay.
For instance,
Planning.
at Thanksgiving time, we decide after everybody eaten, we're sitting around the table with there's cousins and nieces and nephews and all that. We decided to go around and all the couples described how they met each other, like and so the kids were mesmerized. Like I hadn't all heard the stories about how their mom and dad had met, their first date, their first kiss. So it could be something as simple as that. It could also be talking to the elders in the family. You know, it's nice when you have grandparents and aunts and uncles and people who are on the table who can talk about things like rituals and what was it like when you were a kid? What was your Christmas like? What were the traditions in your family? What kind of presents did you get when you were a kid growing up? So the kids always like to hear where they came from.
I still like to hear the story of how my parents met. I think it's a neat story, and I wish that my grandfather had written a few things down too, because there are just some really fascinating stories in there.
In this day and age, we have phones, right? So record those people talking about the stories, and maybe write it out, or maybe make a little journal or a book and give it to all the grandkids, so those stories aren't lost. Yeah,
and as we get to the end of the year, maybe we can look back at 2019, like what's the biggest challenge we faced, or what was our best memory?
And when I've done that before, it's interesting. Sometimes the parents have a vision. My kid will probably say this was their highlight, or this was their challenge. A lot of times kids have a different perspective. And so parents will learn something about, wow, I didn't realize that was such an important event for you. I didn't realize you were going through that challenge. So you'll always learn something about everybody around the table when you give them a chance to talk and share. I just did a weekend retreat for middle school girls, and at lunch on Saturday, we went around the table and we asked them all, how'd you get your name? And a lot of times it wasn't the first name that was a family name. It might have been their middle name. But some of them don't know why they got that name, and they may not know why their parents related them with like a great aunt or a great uncle or a grandparent or a great grandparent. So it'd be nice around the table during the holidays to talk about why we gave you that name and to connect them with that relative, maybe how you resemble that person.
Or connect it back to the family tree. My middle name is Marie, after my grandmother on my mother's side.
Right, and then tell stories about great grandmother Marie.
I love it.
So they start to connect with their roots. It's so important for kids to know what their roots are.
Very good. And you know that thing where you go around at Thanksgiving and say what you're thankful for. It's always good to be grateful and to have those messages of gratitude around the table as well.
It can be general gratitude about things in your life, but even more important, what are you grateful for about the people around the table?
About the people sitting with you.
And actually tell people, look at them and say, what I'm grateful for is something that you did for me, or where you were there for me, or where you supported me. It's such a personal thing, and we don't always take the time to give those kind of acknowledgments, and especially around the holidays, it gives everybody a good feeling.
It's good. Always say to the people who are around you how much you love them, how much you're grateful for them. Very good ideas. So just take a little pre-planning into account before these gatherings.
And make sure there are meals together.
Oh yeah.
We're running around busy. Make sure you plan in lots of times where we're all around the table, even if it's just your immediate family. Just make sure there's plenty of dinners.
Make the time.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much,
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Jordan. Great ideas. We will post a link, of course, to Dr. Jordan's blog on our website, kmov.com/greatday.
It's goofy, it's hokey, but I will own it. I always think back this time of year, or I think ahead to how my kids are going to remember the Christmases of their childhood and dinners around the table, and are they going to remember it as awesome or just noisy, which is kind of how I remember it.
No, I'm thinking noisy at your house.
Yeah, very. Thank you guys so much. Still